If you have children and want a family-friendly store, look no further than Aw Yeah Comics. Visit one of their 3 locations, Harrison, New York, Muncie, Indiana, or Skokie, Illinois, and check out awyeahcomics.com for more. Their name says exactly how they feel about it. Aw yeah. My love of the TV series Smallville is well documented, and there's one rewatch podcast that's always at the top of my queue, Zach Moore's Always Hold On to Smallville, which continues with more great Smallville and Superman talk now that their series rewatch has concluded. Listen wherever you get podcasts. In the 1950s, George Reeves embodied the Man of Steel in Superman's first television adaptation, from its gritty black and white beginnings to the kid-friendly color years. To this day, an entire generation reveres George as their Superman, while for others, the show remains an overlooked, underrated chapter in the character's history. On this podcast, we bring everyone together as we break down each episode of Adventures of Superman, examining it within the context of the series itself, as well as the larger Superman mythology. Welcome to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss Season 3, Episode 10, The Bully of Dry Gulch. It's returning guest, Rich Roney. Welcome back.
Hello, everybody. Anthony, I'm thrilled to be here.
Fun episode.
Listen, you're going to hear it. I loved this episode. I watched this 3 times, and I got more out of it with each viewing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
This is a fun one. This is one that I feel like a few years ago when I watched this for the first time, when I was really just kind of getting acclimated to Adventures of Superman, I don't know that this was one that totally resonated with me, especially coming off of the black and white era. But now, have I come to really enjoy and appreciate this episode. This is a standout.
We are totally simpatico. I watched this 3 times. This was the first time I ever thought of this show as a comedy, right?
Yeah. Quick setup here. Lois and Jimmy are stuck in the small town of Dry Gulch at the mercy of local bully Gunner Flinch, who needs to be taught a lesson. This aired on September 24th, 1955, written by David Chandler, directed by George Blair. In our guest cast, we have Myron Healy as Gunner, Martin Garalaga as Pedro, and Raymond Hatton as Sagebrush. I guess we've already shared our kind of overall impressions of this. I guess from my perspective, I agree wholeheartedly with you about the comedic elements of this episode. There were a couple of bits, especially when we get to Clark and Gunner playing cards, that truly made me laugh. So there's some really funny stuff, but I also did, not unlike when we were talking about Olsen's Millions and how the show is imparting this lesson about be careful who you trust. Similarly here, I do feel like there was some kind of moral instruction about bullies and how to deal with bullies and what that's all about. So I enjoyed that aspect of it as well, even as an adult, but kind of recognizing who this was made for and when this was made and what it was kind of aiming to instruct. I thought it was interesting and valuable.
I agree. If I may, as you know, our mutual friend Steve Odo and I, during COVID, we were both watching The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Myron Healy played Doc Holliday. So Myron Healy was in a number of Westerns in the 50s and 60s. I can remember him in some John Wayne Westerns, feature films.
You know, it's funny you remind me of that because, yes, our mutual friend, Steve Odo, who you met in high school, you've known him for decades, and he was the owner of the comic book shop that I worked at for many years. That's how you and I met. But I do remember a few years ago when you guys were really immersed in Wyatt Earp, and I remember he showed me a picture of a board he had made laying out all of the characters. I forget the exact purpose of it, but it looked like one of those murder boards that you see that you'll see on shows and movies as people are trying to piece together a crime or whatnot.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, funny stuff. But yeah, so we're very much in this kind of Old West theme here. Shall we get into our scene-by-scene discussion here? All right, yeah, this will be a lot of fun. Lois and Jimmy find themselves stuck in Dry Gulch, a small town right out of the Old West, when their car breaks down on the way to report about a rodeo. Immediately, they observe local bully Gunner Flinch firing shots at the feet of an older man, Sagebrush, and laughing. When Lois and Jimmy intervene and say it isn't funny, Gunner points out the 10 notches on each of his guns, one for each man he's killed, allegedly. He takes a liking to Lois, this will be important for later, but he tells Jimmy, aka Dude, that he has until sunset to leave Dry Gulch or else catch a bullet.
Yes. One thing, you summarized it perfectly, right? The car breaks down. They're forced to stay overnight in this western town. What I did find intriguing and kind of weird was Jimmy alternated between courage and then cowardice.
Yes.
You know, certain times he really stood up to, hey, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. And he goes, Gunner would pull out the revolver and go, what are you going to do about it, dude? And then Jimmy would back down. And that seemed to be a recurring theme a number of times where Jimmy would exhibit pushback and show courage. And then when Gunner would focus on him, he'd back down.
Oh, that's a great observation. And you're right. And we're going to see that again in the saloon in the next scene, basically. But yeah, I mean, I guess that speaks to, as is always the case with Jimmy, his youth, his immaturity. Maybe he's not fully thinking things through, but also to his credit, kind of that moral fiber. And he is so moved to kind of stand up and speak up for what's right. But yes, then when he is faced with the reality of you're going to get shot or hit or whatever it might be, then yeah, he shrinks back. So I think that's actually a pretty natural response, especially for someone young. But yeah, I like that he's at least moved enough to try to speak up. It's also interesting too that dude has this negative connotation, right? Whereas now I call everybody dude. What's up, dude?
Yeah, and it had a kind of a, a non-macho or, you weren't a strong guy if you were called a dude. You were kind of a tenderfoot. But then Jimmy's costume on this thing, I mean, wow.
It's also funny too because Lois chastises him. I don't know, maybe it's before he goes in to buy the clothes, right? Because they're standing, he sees the sign for clothing and he's like, oh, I'll meet you later. And I think she warns him about not going too crazy. But then the next time we see her, she's in a getup too.
Yes.
You mentioned about Wyatt Earp. Generally, historically, in your life, have you been a fan of Westerns? Movies and shows and whatnot?
A little bit. I mean, not...
Because it's not a thing for me, like, really, at all, I would have to say. I mean, I enjoyed this, and I got what they were going for and all of that. But yeah, it's not, for me, it's not something where I'm like, oh yeah, like a big fan of Westerns.
I'll say this. There were probably, during COVID, 3 shows I enjoyed watching. They were all half-hour Westerns. There was Have Gun Will Travel, which I enjoyed with Richard Boone, which was written very adult themes, intellectual. There was The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp, and then there was Tales of Wells Fargo. But they were all half-hour shows, so I could bang them out fast. I was never really into like Bonanza or Gunsmoke or some of the lengthier ones.
Gotcha. Right on. Next, in the saloon, Gunner pays Pedro and Sagebrush, then insists they play cards, whereupon he wins the money he just gave them with an impossible hand of 5 aces. When Jimmy once again calls out Gunner's lack of fair play, he finds himself tossed in a jail cell. One of the things that really made me laugh in this scene is when Pedro is like, in Mexico, a man would be killed if he had 5 aces. And he's like, what'd you say? In Mexico, a man would be thrilled to have 5 aces. Yeah, that was great.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like, right from the jump, right? Like, you see this control that he exerts over them. And yeah, the bit with the cards was funny.
Yes.
Shall we continue?
Please.
All right. Because I think we're getting to what I would assume is your favorite moment of the episode.
No, I'm going to interrupt for a moment prior to that. What I found fascinating, and I know you're leading up to the moment I love, but what I found fascinating was after this scene in the diner or wherever it was, once again, Jimmy stands up. And then Jimmy goes outside with Pedro and they kind of tussle and Jimmy takes his poncho or something and it covers his eyes. But earlier, before Jimmy got his dude outfit on, his silly costume, and it was egregious. But originally, when Gunner is shooting at Sagebrush, is it? You have all these pedestrians walking around. No one's doing anything about this nut that's firing bullets at an old man's feet, making him dance. And then later on, when Jimmy's on the street, you saw some vintage cards of the day, like that pale blue DeSoto or something like that. And I saw this one lady with the red blouse walk by 3 times, the same lady. So it was surprising to see pedestrians showing no interest whatsoever in what Gunnar was doing.
Yeah, I know. I guess they're so used to him, I suppose. This is another thing. I know this is kind of previewing where we're going, but I mean, are we to assume that Gunnar is firing real bullets and always firing real bullets? Or are there times when there's blanks? Because we're going to get to the point where and I know I'm jumping ahead, but we're going to get to the point where he seemingly shoots and kills Pedro, and that's all a ruse. So I would assume that was an instance where he was firing a blank or purposely missing. But I mean, like, we don't see or hear the bullet go anywhere else.
And it's going to come up in 5 minutes in the episode when he shoots up the diner.
Right. So that's the other big thing I wanted to ask you, because when he's shooting in the saloon, like, those are clearly real bullets. I mean, we're seeing things get smashed up, but then Lois questions the number of bullets, right? She says something like, isn't that a 6-shooter? I counted 7 shots. And he says, like, oh, I'm lucky, or something like that.
Yeah, my gun shoots so fast sometimes I can't even count the bullets.
So I don't know what the implication of that was supposed to be. I mean, it seemed to be like, it speaks to this larger thing about, like, he's not on the up and up, right? Like, he's telling these tall tales. He's not everything that he seems to be.
To what end? What end? I mean, Pedro and Sagebrush work for him. He steals their salaries or their compensation. What is this? Well, we're reading a lot into it, but is it all, self-gratifying ego or narcissism? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's why I ask, because, look, with a lot of these, I've watched them before, but I don't remember, like, every exact beat. And so initially, as I was starting to rewatch this, I said to myself, oh yeah, he must just, like, fire blanks throughout the episode. But no, I mean, when he's firing in the saloon, those are real. But yeah, then there's this business questioning how many bullets he actually had. So I don't know what the audience, I welcome your input, because I don't know what the implication there was supposed to be.
And the owner or the manager of the diner wasn't too worried about it. I mean, now we're really tearing it apart a little bit, but understandably so, because exactly to your point, and I mean, I don't know, I guess this tracks when you talk about the seeming nonchalance that people have about what he's doing. Totally different.
Because as we'll find out, he routinely kills these 2 pals of his. He
10
shoots
times,
them, right? And
10 times.
But
what end?
But if the people of the town know that his bark is worse than his bite, and he's never, so it's like, why would he then occupy a position of prominent? Not prominence might be not the right word, but he seems to dominate this small town. But if people know that this is all just a ruse, like the people he seemingly kills are back the next day, why would he have that position?
And well, later on, we're going to get into this later on, but later on, Jimmy gets put in a jail cell. Where the freak is the sheriff? I mean, obviously they got a police department. You can put him in a cell. Don't you have some local police official, even a sheriff or a partial cop, part-time?
Well, I was waiting for the line. I was waiting for Jimmy to be like, "Where's the sheriff?" and for Gunnar to be like, "You're looking at him."
Oh,
and then it's
that
like,
would be
okay.
That would close the loop.
That would close the loop. Yeah.
I never thought about it. I
mean, Lois asks Pedro in this scene that we were on here with the cards and everything, like, why do you put up with him? And Pedro says, it sounds something like, he'll be angry if we don't. I mean, I don't know. I guess this episode is trying to make the point about bullies generally, those who will exert their control over others and I don't know, and how sometimes it can be hard to break that cycle, even if it's an instance like this where the people of the town, like, no, he's not actually killing people.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, but also, like, he has these stories about all these other people that he's killed. So maybe they buy into that. But why would they if they see Pedro and Sagebrush
reappear?
Like, I don't know.
And Anthony, this gets back to what I said weeks ago. This was not good for me as a young child, being 6 and 7. And because a real bully, I can remember later in time when I was in elementary school and, maybe I was in 3rd grade and some of the 6th graders were pushing me around. It was an entirely different thing. This gives you the illusion that if you stand up to bullies, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right. So this was one thing I disliked about And I know they made it so child-friendly when it was broadcast. They went overboard. But I do think that, and I don't want it to be gritty violence, but I think that sent the wrong message to children.
Speaking of bullies, I remember when I was in camp, when I, like during elementary school, I remember there was this other camper, Willie, and he was a bit of a bully. I don't remember. I remember him one time telling me to shut the F up. I don't remember what else he did. Did he splash me in the pool? Or he did? I feel like there was something else. It wasn't atrocious, bullying, but I would kind of put him in that category. And then I remember my answer to this was one day in the morning before camp started. We were just kind of all gathered. I just ran up and pushed him. And you know what? We became friends after that. I think it was later that day or later that week, but we were in the pool and you had to have a buddy. And he was like, do you want to be buddy? Like the buddy system. I'm not saying that should be the answer if there are any kids listening, but I don't know. In my specific instance, it was like, I stood up to him in that way, whatever. And then, we were good.
Interesting.
Yeah. That memory always stood with me because it was just kind of interesting of like,
how old were you?
I don't know, 10? I mean, I don't know, I was a little kid, but yeah, but I still vividly remember running up and pushing him.
What prompt? I mean, like, hey, things are slow. There he is. I'm going to get him.
Well, and that's the funny thing because I guess it was one of those things where maybe it was the day before that he told me to shut up and
it sat with you.
Yeah. And then that next morning I was like, this is my moment. Anyway, hope Willie's doing well. And we didn't keep in touch. Okay, the moment. Lois calls Clark for help. Clark is entirely unmoved by Jimmy's plight, even telling Lois to stop joking around, but snaps to attention when Lois reveals that Gunner has been making goo-goo eyes at her. Please, do the honors. Give us the line.
Well, I will give me 10 seconds. More than anything else, I loved it how Clark was, here is Jimmy in danger. He could be murdered. He's given 2 hours to get out of town. He could be shot in the head. Clark is just so trivializing and so dismissive. And, tell him not to eat much. That way he'll be a smaller target. Clark is just dismissive until Lois goes, and he's making goo-goo eyes at me. And Clark snaps. He goes, what? That's different, stay right there. I'll be right out. So Clark transforms. He gets so enraged. He did what? That's different. I'll be right out. He was so amped up. It just cracked me up. And but it hurt. Like, hey, he doesn't give a shit about Jimmy's life.
That's the thing. I mean, it's a very funny moment. And look, as we have talked about, and this will come up again, I mean, this is a show that was clearly not interested or able to delve into any real potential romance, with extremely limited exceptions throughout the series, like very fleeting. So to have at least an instance here where something is aroused in him with the fact that this other guy is making moves on her, that aspect is interesting. But yeah, it does bother me how unmoved he is at Jimmy's situation. And this is not the first time, it won't be the last time, where there's sort of the suggestion of like, oh, stop joking around. It's like, when the F do these people ever joke around? Like, I don't get why. I don't understand why that's always, stop tricking. It's like, is this ever the case?
Never. We never saw Jimmy pull a prank. Never. Right?
Yeah.
So, but this reminded me, like the one time when Jimmy's mother called, well, come on, I want to go back to sleep, right? I'm sure he'll turn up. But here I felt bad for Jimmy because Clark was so dismissive.
Well, and also because the situation has really escalated at this point. Like, Jimmy's in jail, someone's threatening to shoot him, right? It's not like, I don't know, there's this guy who's, kind of not being nice to Jimmy. He's calling him dude. I could see Clark being like, all right, like he'll figure it out. But the situation has escalated. I don't know. There needed to be another way to get to that getting to that big reaction from Clark. I get it. That pops. That's a fun moment. But there has to be another way there because he just seems so uncaring towards Jimmy. This is your friend.
So dismissive.
Yeah. Also, especially, he's Superman. Like, this would take nothing for him, as we see in the next scene.
Yeah, he's able to get out there pretty fast.
Oh, God. All right. Single Bound is a new podcast series hosted by married couple Amy and Logan as they review single issues of comics. And if the title makes you think of Superman, you're not alone, as the Man of Steel is a regular topic of discussion. Listen and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube, and follow the show on Instagram at Single Bound Podcast. Whether you're an independent filmmaker or you just love movies, don't miss these New Jersey film festivals: Brightside Tavern in Jersey City, Hang On to Your Shorts in Asbury Park, and Round Reel in Bloomfield. Submission information for filmmakers can be found at filmfreeway.com. Fat Moose Comics, established in 1982, is New Jersey's best and oldest comic book store. Moose has that rare old-school comic shop feel and camaraderie, yet also remains a welcoming space for new fans. Visit them in person in Whippany, New Jersey, or reach out via the Fat Moose Comics Facebook page. This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions. It helps support the show too. Thank you. Superman busts Jimmy out of jail, swears him to secrecy, then changes to Clark to teach Gunner a lesson. He flies in, he breaks through the wall. I did like this where, look, we know the series likes to show Superman busting through walls. It's a big fun effect. George Reeves liked it, I think.
And didn't Jack Larson say George loved busting through walls? I think in one of the
DVD commentaries.
Yes.
Or special features. Yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly about that. But also in story, I kind of love the notion that he's so pissed off at the notion that Gunner is making moves on Lois that adds a little bit. Puts a little sauce on it, and that's why he smashes.
That's a good point.
Because he could have very easily just walked in and bent the bars, but he smashes through. I did like that.
I didn't think about that. That adds his fury, his anger. Yeah.
Why do you think he swears Jimmy to secrecy?
I couldn't figure that out because I just couldn't figure that out.
Because eventually it will come out that Superman was there. So I don't know. I guess.
Or could it, now that we bring it up, could it have been he doesn't want another opportunity in front of Lois where Clark and Superman are in the same remote place at the exact same day?
Yeah. And I guess he
could explain it. Hey, Lois, you gave me the call. I got concerned. I immediately called Superman. He could explain it that way. How many other times have we seen them? Look, my God, they were 50,000 BC together in, through the time barrier.
Yeah, if no one could figure it out then, I think you're safe. And also it's like by the end of the episode, I'm sure they'll compare notes that this will all come out. But I guess in that specific moment, he I don't know. But anyway. Oh, and when Clark comes upon Lois, she's like, "How'd you get here so fast?"
I flew.
Technically true, literally true, but obviously doesn't share the truth with Lois. But in the saloon, now this is a key scene. We can unpack this further, but I'll give the main beats of it. In the saloon, Gunner pressures Clark to gamble with him. Clark uses his X-ray vision to burn Gunner's trick deck of cards. Well, that's life, he tells Gunner, and purchases a new deck. After displaying some super speed shuffling and dealing, Clark wins the hand with, wouldn't you know it, 5 aces. This was the scene, man. This was, how did this play for you?
I loved this. I loved this. And more than anything else, Anthony, I think this is superior to, he's doing what? This is superior. So as you say, he uses his X-ray vision. He sets the marked deck on fire. And then he does the super speed shuffle and all that. And then I forget what happened. Something happened. Maybe he gave the money to the guy whose place was shot up.
Yep.
But Lois goes, how did that happen? And I loved Clark's line. He goes, maybe it was a hot deck.
Yes.
It really made me hunger for more situations where George Reeves could do his comedic. I mean, maybe it was a hot deck. He just that wink, and it seemed like he was really having fun. I wish I could have seen more comedic ability or opportunities where he could, because it seemed in the moment, it was very funny.
I know, I agree wholeheartedly. I guess what stands out to me a lot too about this scene is, and maybe, Yeah, I don't know if this is part of the lesson that they were trying to convey to kids per se, but I like how Clark kills him with kindness, right? It's not like he comes. I mean, I don't know. What do you think season 1 Clark would have done?
Oh,
I'd have smashed him through the table.
No karate chops for him. He'd just take his head.
Yeah, but like it was interesting. He's overly polite towards Gunnar and
Charming.
Yeah, he's charming. I mean, he tries to decline the invitation to drink and gamble. He says he doesn't do either. Gunnar insists when a man invites you to drink, you drink.
Go to the West.
Yeah, he said, "Well, I'll have a soda then," and then agrees to gamble. So I kind of liked that. It was kind of an interesting approach, and there might be some instructive value in that in terms of how to navigate a difficult situation, possibly. The bit with the cards so he lights Gunnar's cigarette and then pretends that it was the match that lit the cards on fire, but we know he was using his vision. But that line, and I included it in my little summary there, but when Gunnar's dismayed over his marked deck burning up, and Clark's line, "Well, that's life." That's one of my favorite George. That and the what?
Yeah.
Those 3 moments from him in this episode were so good. But just that well, that's life. It was so good.
And Anthony, I watched it like 3 times. George Reeves' face when he goes, maybe it was a hot deck. He seems so happy.
Yeah.
I wish they gave him more windows of opportunity where he could, I guess it would ruin the show, the tone of the show, but that poor guy never, I wish they could have let him stretch more than just being bolder in the face and the voice. This were a few moments here that were genuinely funny.
Another thing that kind of comes to mind is that as we've seen with a lot of these color episodes, generally, especially compared to the first 2 seasons, a lot of times the stakes are lower and we don't feel like there's quite as much tension or urgency. And I think this episode falls into that general category, but I'm really okay with it because I think this is an instance where it's easy to understand why Clark is taking the approach that he is and why he's smiling and he's having, because the stakes are low. It's not like anyone's in any real danger here. And he's teaching this guy a lesson in this way. And no, there's not a huge sense of urgency, but it's like I think sometimes there are other episodes where maybe it feels like there should be more urgency, right? And it's not quite there. This all kind of felt appropriate, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. It was suitable for this episode.
Yeah. And like you buy why, because I think maybe in other episodes where, I don't know, if Jimmy were in, I don't know, some sort of danger at this moment and Clark is taking his time messing around with Gunnar and the cards, you'd be like, well, come on, like we have business to attend to here, but that's not the case.
It's not the case.
And so it really tracks like why he would do this.
And what I found interesting, and we're going to see this in some episodes later in season 4, Lois is frequently dismissive. She basically calls Clark a coward. She's very derogatory. But here, when Gunnar is shooting up this whole diner, Clark is just standing there. He's not flinching. He's not cowering. He's not afraid at all. And Lois is hovering behind him.
Yeah.
So it showed that, look, Clark is not a milquetoast.
Yet when we get to the end of this episode and Clark is absent from the final quote unquote shootout, like when he reemerges, Lois has a crack about like, now that the excitement's over, of course you're back.
Right. But in
this, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I don't buy. That's why those moments, and this has come up a lot of times, that's why those moments where Lois in particular is dismissive of Clark or calls him a coward, it's like, it does not track with what we see in these. I mean, my God, the start of season 2, when he jumps out of the car with the bomb, it's like, what do you want from this guy? Oh, man. All right. Oh, why do you think Clark does the 5 aces trick? Because he wasn't privy to that.
I wondered about that because he wasn't there when Myron Healy or Gunnar, and as you said, Pedro goes, a man would be killed. What'd you say? A man will be thrilled, as you pointed out. How did Clark know about that? That had to be, well, I think as you've said, I don't think these guys left too much on the cutting room floor, right? So
yeah, I don't think there's a deleted scene, right?
This now that you bring it up, this was really for the convenience of the audience and to tie the two together and to beat Gunnar at his own game.
To beat him at his own game, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Outside, Gunnar accosts a surprisingly free Jimmy, but Pedro intervenes, tells Gunnar to leave Jimmy alone. Gunner fires and seemingly kills Pedro instantly. This is one of my other favorite parts of the episode. Sagebrush drags Pedro away for a shockingly long distance before Pedro pops up in the cemetery, and the audience learns that Gunner is really a lot of talk. In fact, the graveyard full of Gunner's victims is really just a ruse to make people fear him. How freaking long was that guy dragging Pedro?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm saying for both of them, for the guy doing the drag, but
the,
also the guy getting
guy.
dragged. I mean,
yeah.
It's not like.
And as you pointed out, like 10 minutes ago, we're going to see Pedro in 3 or 4 days again anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this really seems to be like for the benefit of these visitors who are going to be leaving town anyway. But yeah, it's like I could see if they stuffed Pedro in a wheelbarrow and then Sagebrush pushed that away. It's like, okay, it's still, I mean, that's still a decent lift, but okay. But at least there's a wheel. But just this notion of him dragging him by the legs.
Out of town.
I just about getting to that next scene. I'm like, he's still dragging him. It's like, and in fairness, they do have that line where he's like, all right, nobody's around. You can get up now. I think you probably could have gotten up sooner. I feel like you probably passed the last person a while ago. Oh, it's so funny. All right. The Daily Planet crew journeys to the cemetery to pay their respects, but Clark sees a very much alive Pedro in the distance with his enhanced vision, and Superman appears to Pedro to make him a deal. Backtracking, I have a question for you. When Gunner, quote unquote, shoots and kills Pedro in the street, right? Clark is there. He observes this. Does Clark think Pedro is actually dead at that point?
I don't know. Because I'm inclined to think Clark doesn't think he's dead. I think Clark, with his powers and with his intellect, he's astute enough to go, the guy's really alive. This is a con job.
I want to go with that, because if not, it's like if he thinks Pedro's really dead and he's content to,
well, another day,
and he
that's
says,
how
like,
it ends.
Basically says like, well, there's nothing we can do right now. I really would take issue with that, because I don't think that's what he would do.
Consistent with Superman's moral code.
But I guess the reason why I asked this question, and where I'm not really entirely sure of the answer, is because when Clark uses his vision and he sees Pedro, I mean, it seems to be a bit of a surprise to him. But maybe not. Maybe he knew all along, and this was just now he knows where Pedro actually is.
Anthony, I didn't pay that much attention. And now that you bring it up, I want to go back and like, this is so out of character for Superman. I mean, I would like to have some sort of reveal where he knows Pedro's alive and this is a con job. Because if not, it violates the whole moral character of Superman. Like, hey, you just shot that guy down, and he doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I think my headcanon has to be that he knows. I just...
Let's go with that.
We'll go with that. Maybe it's just when he sees where Pedro is, it's just like, oh, there he is. I just wouldn't have minded a line of like, there you are. You know what I mean? Like, if it just under his breath, there you are. Right? Like, basically saying like, oh, I knew you were alive, and now I got you.
I like that. Because that, what it would have been, 3 seconds of time on the camera?
Yeah.
Or 2 seconds. There you are.
Yeah. It would have gone a long way. It has. That's my headcanon, because otherwise I really can't reconcile a Clark who sees someone shot down in cold blood.
And doesn't
just
do
like,
anything.
Well, all right.
That's how it goes.
Well, that's life. That's life.
Not for Pedro.
Pedro returns to town, upsetting the ruse that Gunner has perpetrated, and challenges Gunner to a showdown. At last, Gunner admits he can't shoot Pedro, and that he's been telling many tall tales. Superman arrives. Pedro shoots at Gunner's feet for a change. Gunner takes a bath by falling into the trough, and everyone has a great laugh.
See, that's what I meant this is the first time I've ever considered this show a comedy. Especially at the end when Myron Healy falls into the horse trough. And even as he gets out, then one of the bad guys takes his hat full of water and puts it on top of him again. So it was very comedic at the end. The bully got his comeuppance.
He did. Everybody's laughing at him. It was interesting, though, that he says to the guys, all right, come on, guys, let's get out of town. And they go with him. Right? Like, what do you make of that? And was that a fitting end in that? I mean, like, I guess I agree with you. He gets his comeuppance. He's kind of outed, right? As being this liar. But yeah, I don't know. Does he deserve to have these two guys pal with him out of town? Or should there have been some moment of like, you're on your own now?
No, I think there was some sort of friendship and camaraderie. of those three.
Okay.
That's what I ascribe to it.
Right on. Well, that's the Bully of Dry Gulch. I mean, before we give our rating, is there anything else that you want to say about it we didn't hit on?
No, the only thing I'll say is the two standout moments that I loved were, he did what? I loved that. Though I did feel sorry for his tone towards Jimmy. And then I loved more than anything else. Well, maybe it was a hot deck. I loved that line. And Reeves' delivery of that line. Those are the two moments that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, because as you're saying, I agree. Like, that was such a standout moment, and it's such an outlier. And I do feel like we've been saying with these color episodes, it's overall like very softer. It's a lot softer and gentler, and we're not seeing the frustrated impatience of Clark that we saw in the previous seasons. But that's a different spin, and at least that puts a little sauce on it. Right? It's not just like, oh, he's smiling and calm and gentle, but like there's a little bit of that
almost like he's in vaudeville in some ways.
No, I like that. I would want to see more of that. But yeah, I agree about those moments. All right. So on a scale of 1 to 5, Great Caesar's Ghost, how many do we give the Bully of Dry Gulch?
4.5.
4.5. I'm going to go 4 on this one, but this is a solid, healthy 4.
Okay.
So we're very close on this. All right. Right on, man.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Well, I thank you very much for joining me. I always enjoy these conversations. Audience, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you come back next time. And until then, remember, only Superman can do super things. Support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your platform of choice, and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Links are in the show notes. Flat Squirrel Podcast is also home to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey, a long-running weekly series mining Superman's vast mythology across time and media. Subscribe today.